Okay, we're continuing to build out our app, right? Today, the functionality we'll be building out, is we want to create sub-collections. So we'll build out a UI such that when we click on a cell, it goes to a detail view. So we'll set up our detail view such that our detail view has the image of that item, and we'll have a text field and a button. That way I could comment on that item. Everybody with me? So when we add our comment, the comment will go to the items or to the item document. So to review the way Firebase is structured, we have collections at the top, followed by documents in that collection. And in our example today, on a document, that document will also have a collection. Everybody with me? So the document, for example, an item is a document. An item is a document. Okay? On that item, for example, this first item here, I could have a collection on that item. The collection will be comments. Everybody with me? Okay? So that's our objective of the day. We'll create a UI to create a new collection on that particular item. That collection will be comments. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Yes? Okay. So if we go to, say for example, if we go to our console, if we all log into our console on Firebase, where am I? Why is this not? Am I in? Is my session over here? It wasn't coming up. I thought I was incognito. Maybe I was. Okay, let's go to our console and let's see what we're aiming towards. So I'll go to my Firebase project whenever my Wi-Fi decides to. Part of working remotely, we might have better Wi-Fi at home individually. So I click on my project, Firebase demo. I go to my database console here. So we have two collections currently, correct? Do we agree? We have two collections. One collection is called items. Again, we keep our collection names as plural because there's many documents in there. And we have a users collection. On my items collection, currently I have one item. As we see in the application, right? There's one item here right now. So far, so good. On that particular document, that particular item, we want to also create comments collection. So in that document, it's going to have comments associated with that particular item. Okay? That is our objective of the day. Okay? So at the end, we have collection, which is items, document, which is the item, and we'll also have a collections here. You see where it says start collection? We're not going to start collection on Firebase. We'll do it in the application. Okay? But when we're done, we'll come back here and we'll see there's a comments collection. Everybody with me? And I'll be able to click on the comments collection and see individual comments. Okay? Any questions before where we headed? All right, so let's go build out our UI for that particular objective. So again, our UI will have a table view, it will have an image, it will have a text field, and it will have a button to send, very similar to the apps we use. So let's navigate over to our storyboard, to our main storyboard. Let me be specific here. Let's navigate over to our main storyboard. And we are doing a detail view from this table view here. So I'm looking at my first table view here, my first tab. We'll go ahead, we'll search for view controller. We'll drag a view controller over. Madame. Yes. We'll drag a view controller over. Let's go ahead and embed it in a nav controller. Okay, so we embedded it in a nav controller, and it doesn't have a class yet to manage it. Let's go ahead and create a class to manage it. So we'll create a view controller, CocoaTouch class. It's UI view controller, and we'll call it item detail controller. So we created an item detail controller, subclass of UI view controller, and we added a scene in Canvas, a new scene, new view controller scene. So item detail controller, next, and create. Awesome. So we have an item detail controller to manage our scene. Let's go back to our storyboard. Let's go back to our storyboard and add some UI elements to this. So first, I want to go ahead and get a UI view. So let's get a UI view. Drag the UI view over. We'll give the UI view a color so we could work with it. I'll make it orange for now. Just a view. Inside that view, we'll have a text field and we'll have a button. So we have a view here. I'll drag the bottom of it so that it's right on our safe area. And let's go ahead and set the constraints for it. So constraints will be leading is 0, trailing 0, bottom 0, and we'll make the height 100. So 4 constraints. Okay, 4 constraints. Next, we'll go ahead and get a text field. What was the height? 100. We'll get a text field, and we'll get a button as well. We haven't set the constraints for the text field. And we'll get a button as well. Button. Let's set the constraints for the button. So I click on my button, I set the constraints for it. I'll make it 8 to the trailing, so 8 points to the trailing. I'll center it vertically. Okay, so here we have 2 constraints for our button. Next, we'll go ahead and drag our text field. We'll set the constraints for the text field. 8 to the trailing, 8 to the leading, 8 to trailing. So 2 constraints for the text field. And we'll go ahead and center it vertically. And I'm missing 1 constraint here. I just went ahead and I changed the priority of it. So we have 2 constraints for the text field, or 3 constraints. Leading 8, trailing 8, center vertically.
Alex?
Yes, sir.
Sorry. The view controller only has that one view at the bottom?
That's all we have right now.
What's the priority
I'm
that you
getting
gave?
I gave it change priority, the default change priority.
Where is that?
What's yours? Click on that. Let me go back. Let me backtrack here. So Control Z, let's click on the red arrow. Do we see the arrow? Do we see the arrow?
Yeah.
Click on the arrow and just simply change priority to the default priority here. You see change priority? Mm-hmm. Just click on it. We only added the 1 view, well, not 1 view, we added 3 elements. Christian?
Yeah.
We added the orange view, the text field, and the button. All right, so at this point, let's go ahead and add a table view. Add a table view over here. Add a table view, and the table view will constrain it 0 everywhere. So 0 to the top, leading, trailing, and also the bottom. So 4 constraints. And then we have our table view. In our text field, we could click our text field and add some placeholder. Here I could just simply say, enter your comment. Enter your comment. It doesn't matter, it's just gonna go through. You can have a count, but we're not gonna go through like the count character. You can check the character count every time they're typing in the text should change range, right? But today there's no count exactly. We'll do the cells such that they could resize themselves. Yeah. All right, so we have our table view. We click on our table view. Let's add a prototype cell. Add one prototype cell and go over to our identity inspector. What are we going to call this? Let's call it comment cell. So we have comment cell.
It was 0, 0, 0, and then 8 at the bottom, or 0, 0, 0, 0?
0 everywhere. So we have comment cell, and we'll change the style.
You have the class comment cell already?
No, we don't have it yet.
Oh, you're about to make that.
What did I'm sorry. I just messed something up here. I just messed something up here, sorry. All right, so click on the cell, and the class, we're not gonna have a custom class, but we'll change the identifier, or we'll give it an identifier. That's what I was trying to do here, sorry. This is going to be comment cell. My identifier is comment cell, yes?
And the style is custom.
Yes, and the style is subtitle. The style is subtitle.
I missed a type.
You miss a type?
Subtitle.
Oh, you missed it.
Yes.
What did you miss about it?
No
The
config-
ease of it?
No configure cell?
Really? You don't like configure cell?
I'm not, I'm used to it now. Mainly.
Okay. All right, what else we have going on here? So our UI is pretty much done. Let's change the class name. I don't think we've done that yet. So click on your view controller and change the class to, what do we have? Item detail, yes? And go ahead and copy the class name, paste it into the storyboard ID. So make sure you have the class name being item detail view controller or item detail controller, and also the storyboard ID to match. And we'll change that button name here to send. The button title, yeah, send. Not save, send. You send in something. S-E-N-D, yeah. You could put post, you could put send, you could put post. But here we have send. Okay, cool, great.
For the keyboard?
For the keyboard, I'm sorry?
Oh, the button.
The button title, yeah. Okay, cool. So let us go ahead and open up our assistant editor. Open up our assistant editor here and make sure we have our, this is not the correct cell. Oh. Item detail. Make sure you have your item detail right next to your scene. So that's what we edit in here. And let's go ahead and wire up the controls. So let's go ahead and control drag our table view. So we have a table view. We also want to control drag our orange view, so we have access to that orange view if we need to do any manipulation with it. Actually, I don't think we need the view. We just need the constraint. We just need the constraint. So let's get access to that constraint.
Oh, for the keyboard?
Yeah, for the keyboard handling. So let's get access to that constraint. Let's open up our document.
Was it the view that you gave the constraint to? Wasn't it the text field that you gave that constraint to?
The first view we started with, that's the one we're going to use the constraint on, the orange one. Everything is in there, exactly. Everything is a sub-view of it. So if we take a look at our hierarchy here, at the top we have a view, correct? Mm-hmm. Then we have this orange view, which we could just call container view here. To keep it simpler for us to read, container.
The view had...
Which view? The orange view.
Yeah, it had a white constraint?
Well, the bottom, there's a bottom constraint. There's a vertical constraint. We need access to that vertical constraint so that when our keyboard comes up, we alter that vertical constraint. And if do we all have access to our document outline?
Yes.
All right, cool. Let's open up our constraints. Open up this some more here. And what we're looking for container view bottom. Do we see container view bottom? Do we see container view bottom? Your container view, your blue, your orange view.
Oh, it says view. Were we supposed to give it a different?
We just changed the name from view to container view.
Where? Oh, up here?
I missed that.
Where did we change it to container view? Oh, this one right here? So if I change.
Beneath the safe area, how many views do we have?
Oh, okay, so container, got you. So now it makes sense.
Do we all have a view and a table view? Awesome. So we renamed the view to container view so that we're not getting mixed between our outside view and our inner view. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay? What's your question, Yulia?
I don't see this.
Did you open up your document outline?
Yes, and we have two views, before table view and after. You have to constrain.
Let me see what the screen looks like.
Okay, so I change this. It's not correct. I need to change this one.
No, not this one. This view here, if I click on that guy.
This.
Yeah, so that one is the container view.
And what is this a regular view?
This one here, what is this one? What's the next view here?
So title, subtitle.
No, don't go into that cell. That's the content view of the cell. Don't go into the cell. No. Okay, how are we doing? Any questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Questions? We're looking at, let's go back down to it. We're looking at container. If you renamed your view container view, you should now look for container view bottom. Do we see container view bottom? Or view bottom? Yes? Based on what we're trying to go for, yes, you should. The first view you added, I need the bottom constraint for that first view. Did you give it a color? Yeah. What color does it have? So click on it, and then you'll see the document outline is highlighted. Open up the constraints, and you should have a bottom constraint for that view.
Okay, if I don't have, what should I do? Should I add this constraint?
To recap, everybody, when we first added that container view, we set it such that it was 0 to the bottom, correct?
Yes.
So we should have access to that 0 constraint. That's what we're looking for here. So that when our keyboard comes up, we're able to alter that constraint. What's that? Yeah, for keyboard handling. Yeah, we could have done a stack view. Okay, how are we doing? Did we get access to the bottom view? Yes? Before we go any further, I just want us to test the constant here. Click on the constraint.
Yes.
Click on the constraint. Do we get access to the alignment constraint view, the inspector?
Bottom alignment constraint?
Yes. Do we see a constant here saying 0?
Yes.
Okay. We could simply change that number to minus 100. We're just testing here and press enter. It should take the view up. Before we do anything, I want to test this. Verify that it does take the view up. Cool? Then you could command Z back to 0. Were you able to see the constant 0? Click on the bottom constraint.
If you're seeing a line to bottom on your measurement tool, like on your
On the constant. Yeah.
If you're seeing a line to bottom, is that fine? Even if it's not showing in your
Whatever alignment he did with the bottom view, that's what we want.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. And then verify that it does go up when you change that constant to like a minus value. Bless you. How are we doing? Can we continue? Can we continue? Okay. Madame Tiffany E. Tanya, how are we doing? We good? Okay. It's beautiful. Go back to the original value. Yes. Yes. Okay. That same constraint, we want to have an outlet to that same constraint. Everybody with me? So we want to control drag We want to control drag from that constraint. Y'a toujours? Y'a toujours? Y'a toujours?
How would I be able to control drag if that specific constraint is not?
Were you able to toggle your constant?
Yeah, when I find it.
I have the same problem. You see it,
But you have the constraint, right? Okay, so control drag that constraint.
I don't have it.
Because you set it up differently. That's what it is. Right? As long as you have access to that constraint that's able to change the Y value, you're good.
I don't have access to it.
Aaron? Oh, sorry. Antonio, can you double check Juan's computer? Thanks. Basically, our goal is to get that orange view up, and we want to get access to that bottom constraint that he has to his bottom view. Okay, so where are we? We're trying to now control drag from the bottom view constraint, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Oscar, Jahid, can we continue? We good? Okay, so let's go ahead and control drag from the container bottom over to our view controller. And we'll call this container bottom constraint. That's fine. Container bottom constraint. Yeah, definitely. All our outlets always above view did load. Outlets always above view did load. It's not an action now.
Yeah, I agree with the other one.
They just sent me an email inviting me to Zoom.
Yeah.
It's up to you what you want to do.
Okay, now I have two rooms.
Yeah, it's up to you what you want to do. Right. When you say the same, what do you mean? Like the constraint, or you mean?
No, I mean like the table view, the detail in the form of table.
Yeah, you could follow that same format. Sure, definitely. How are we doing? Can we continue? Are you hairdressing in the class?
Why do you keep picking on me, Evan?
During remote, I wanna see. Okay.
Honestly, I'm enjoying this remote business.
Careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for. I'll have my plant right next to the monitor and show you guys the plant for the whole lecture. Me? I've been on the beach, dude. I've been remotely remoting from.
You'll be in St. Lucia. There's no.
All right, let's continue. We have some more outlets to connect here. We have our text field and we have our button. Let's go ahead and connect those.
Do we need an outlet for the button or just an action?
Just an action for the button. Very good. So let's go ahead and control drag from the text field. And we'll call it comment text field. Awesome. Do we have a table view? Yes, we do have a table view already. Next, we will go ahead and add, we do not need all that boilerplate stuff here. We could remove that, the comments here. And let's go ahead and add an action for our button. So control drag. And we'll change type here to UI button. Touch up inside is good here. And we'll just say send button pressed. Hey, languages. We only speak Swift here. Yes, sir. You had a question?
How do you change it from touch up inside to like anything else?
You could change a different action, but then you could.
When I'm actually like this form, like there's no like parameter or nothing. So
It would know, because that's the action you give it. It would only get triggered on that particular action.
but you can't like programmatically say
You could do it if you do everything programmatically, yes.
only if you do everything.
Yeah. But after the fact, it's already set up here. Yeah, exactly. Very, very good. Okay, so at this point, we are pretty much done with our setting up of our storyboard. We could close that out and continue on our item detail. So item detail. We're in our item detail, and let's continue doing some code here. What does item detail need? What dependency does it need? A what? What dependency does it need? We wrote an item detail controller. What does it need? Can it just populate itself without any data?
No, so you need the Firebase.
We need Firebase at some point, probably there. But what does it need? What data does it need? It is an item, right? It's called item detail. In order to show details, we need an item. So let's go ahead and create a private var item of type item. At this point, we're in a class, we get an error. Why do we get that error here, Mr. Sering?
Is this optional?
Why?
It's not initialized.
Oh, there's many Serings here. It's good, it's good. So it's not initialized, right? Our item is not initialized. We could make it optional. Mr. Sering here, this is where you're going there. I could say, add an exclamation mark and make it optional. But this is not what we're going to do. We'll create an initializer that takes in an item.
So how come we done this now instead of like marking it, because remember how we used to do it where we would put it,
Like public.
yes, where, oh, it's because it's private now, we want to make everything private.
We
That's
took
what-
our game to a next level. Right now, we're writing code such that it's encapsulated.
Yes.
Nobody can change my item without using an initializer, right? So this is better object-oriented principles, right? So when you get asked on that interview, like what is object-oriented programming, you talk about encapsulation and what it is. It is making your properties private and using a function or initializer to access that. Cool? Very good. So we need an item here of type item. And we're using coder here because we're coming from storyboard. If we were not coming from storyboard, if we were coming from programmatic, this would be enough here. But we're coming from storyboard. We need to have a coder value here. So now let's go ahead and set up our item. So self.item equal to item. And we'll call super init with coder. And we also have the required init we have to implement here. Okay, cool. Are we coming from? Okay, good. This is good enough. A coder, yes. Because when we, as you see, when we use that initializer, it expects a coder as well. Because what happens, that coder takes our storyboard and it converts it to XML. It archives it, very similar to JSON decoder. It needs to archive on archive with that coder object. All right, cool. So let us continue on here. So who's presenting this detail view controller? This detail controller is being presented by our item feed. So let's go to our item feed and set that up. Item feed. Do we have a did select row at? Item feed. I don't think we have a delegate object yet. We have a height for row, that's good. So right in our UI table view delegate extension here, right at like line 100-ish, in my item feed controller. Are we all in our item feed controller? Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll implement did select row at. So did select row at, we need an item that we'll get from our items array. So here we have an item, great. We're using storyboard to get access to that scene, right? So now we need to access the storyboard that has that view controller scene in it. So we need to access that storyboard. We'll just say storyboard here. We'll say UI storyboard. And the storyboard that has that particular view controller, we need to give its name here. What's the name of it?
Main view.
Main view, very good. Bundle nil. So we have our storyboard. So at that point, we will create a constant and we'll call it detail VC is fine, detail VC, and we use our storyboard instance, and we say instantiate with view controller, identifier. We give it an identifier there, so, still copied it, very good. So we have our identifier. The identifier is item detail. This is where we're going. And we made sure that our scene has that ID, correct? Correct? Or else we get that error saying view controller not found. So here we have our coder. And we don't need this here. And lastly, we need to return the item detail controller. So item detail controller. If I open parens here, now we see we have our initializer. The initializer that we wrote, the one we just wrote now, we have access to it. Do we see that?
Yes.
Right? We're not using the first one because that doesn't have an item. We need to use the one that we created that takes an item. So we go ahead and we use the second initializer here. It takes a coder, which we have the coder object right here, and it takes an item as well. Cool. So at this point, we have our detail view controller. We have our detail view controller instance ready to get pushed. We want to go ahead and push that particular view controller. So what I want to say is navigation controller dot push detail VC animated true build. Make sure we have no errors here.
Oh, because it has, how can we give it a navigation control?
We want to push. We want to push that VC. So when I go to my app here and I click on a cell, I want to push such that I have a back button.
Instead of it doing.
Instead of presentation, right? So if we want to do presentation, we'll do present.
Yeah, but then all we have to do is just slide it down. Isn't that more?
But that particular UI, I want it to be pushed, not presented,
Gotcha.
right? Okay, but yes, if your UI calls for present, you would present it. But our UI, we're calling for pushing that view to the stack, onto the stack. Okay, so here we have a navigation controller, and we want to push that detail VC. Everybody with me so far? So let's go ahead and run the app and put a breakpoint right at 110, wherever your navigation controller syntax is. Put a breakpoint here. Click on the cell. Click on the cell and click on the continue button, continue running button. Did it push? Did it push? Did it push a new view? Luba, did it push a new view for you? Anybody, did it push a new view for you? Any reason why it did not push? What's that? So let's run the app again and put a breakpoint again at 110 here.
It's
Any-
not pushing.
It's not pushing. Any reason why?
It's not embedded.
It's not embedded in the navigation controller.
What is it?
The item view.
This particular view controller.
Oh, this one?
Yes.
Okay.
So next week, when we at home remotely doing our CTA, and we at this particular problem here, be careful here, right? Because we've seen this many times. If I am not in a navigation controller, I cannot execute navigation controller push view controller.
So both view controllers have to have navigation control?
The one we're in right now
But we added to the other one.
does not matter.
Yeah, but that's so we can get it back.
Where I'm coming from, I have to
No,
be
but why we added it to the other one?
to have a tab bar so that we could do our UI. But that does not affect the first where I'm coming
Okay,
from.
so that's the only reason why we added navigation.
So
Yeah, so that we could have a title and everything there. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say, sorry, you don't have a navigation control.
That would be beautiful, right? But it doesn't tell. But it could tell us, do we all have a breakpoint at 110 here? Do we all have a breakpoint at navigation controller?
Yeah, we could PO navigation control.
That's where I'm going to, right? Very good. So somebody's been reviewing her work here. So we have a breakpoint here. Do we have a breakpoint, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so if we click on it, execute the breakpoint here, and let's go PO, like Tiffany says here, PO navigation controller, and press enter. What value do we have? 1 here. When you do PO navigation controller, what value do you have? Nil. Nil tells us it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, it's not going to crash. Why doesn't it not crash? Because here, I am safely trying to unwrap it. I'm using optional chaining here. If it doesn't have a value, it's not going to crash my application. It simply does not work, okay? If my navigation controller is nil, this is Tiffany here. The app is telling us I don't have a navigation controller, I cannot push, okay? So next week again, when you're doing your CTA, if this is the place you are, don't get stuck there because you know you should be in a navigation controller if you're trying to push a view. Everybody with me, okay? So now let's go back to our storyboard and take a look at our item feed controller. So go to our storyboard here. Let's go to our storyboard and see what our view looks like. Right? So here I have my table view or my item feed. Is that embedded in the nav controller?
No.
No. So now let's go ahead and embed it. So I click on the view controller and I go down to embed and I say embed in navigation controller. So I'm going to now click on navigation controller and now it's embedded in the nav controller, right? So we could go ahead and run our code again or run our app again. Did it run already? No, it's still running. 1 second, Julia. So if I click on the cell, at that point, it navigates as expected, right? It navigates because now we are in a navigation controller. I'm able to now push a navigation controller or a view controller onto that navigation stack. Everybody with me? Any questions here? Any questions? Kirby? Question? Oh, to get it to push? Yeah. So you want to embed you want to go to your storyboard. You want to go to the first tab, and you want to embed the first view controller, this guy, who was not embedded. Embedded in a nav controller. So click on it.
Yeah, that one, I've got that embedded.
You've got it embedded. You run the app again, it should push that. If you have nav controller, that push.
Does when we push, does our detail receiver do the navigation control?
The detail receipt, not necessarily, no. No. We did it here, we did it here so that we could have the nav bar so we could edit the name later, but we don't need to here because since it's already getting pushed, it's going to work as expected. What do you have? Go back to your Okay. Tell me, were you able to segue? Loading. Okay. Were we all able to segue? If anybody was not able to segue, please raise your hands and we'll come over and help. Were we all able to segue? Yes? Raise your hand and we'll come over. Okay. So currently we are here. Let's go ahead and, actually, let's not do that. That's fine. Or not. Let's go ahead and change the title here to confirm that we're coming from a particular item. So for the title name, for the navigation title name, we'll change the navigation title name to whatever the item is. I'll give you guys a minute to go ahead and do that, and then we'll do it together. So go ahead, and when I segue over, my nav bar title should be whatever the item name is. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, that's also part of review here, right? That's unit 2-ish.
You said that we had to put a navigation.
It should be already embedded in a nav with a nav bar. There should be a nav bar already. All what you have to do now is give me the item name, right where the back button is there in the nav bar title. I want to see the name of that item I'm currently looking at. Kelby, were you able to segue? It's still loading. Quit the simulator.
It's only got 15 more tabs.
No, it's not finished.
Mm.
It's not simulator.
You want it to be the item name or the category name?
Just the item name. Item name is fine. Hands up if you're able to get the item name. Let's continue.
I'm trying to check it. I'm trying to check.
I'm looking at you from one eye.
I'm looking at you.
Okay, let's do it together. So where am I now? Awesome, good job. Were we all able to get the item name? Awesome. Item detail controller. In our view did load here, we could simply say navigation. Very good, very good. You're gonna teach remotely, I'm telling you.
Technically, we could have done it inside the did select too, right?
Did select. No, you don't want to do it there.
No, but you could.
Yeah, but no, not best practice there.
So, all right, but
Just let the view controller take care of itself.
the better thing to do is to maybe put that in the update UI and then put the update UI.
Yeah, you could do that. Yep. We have more stuff to have here, so. Okay, so let's run our app. So far, we haven't done anything in Firebase, right? That's just simple iOS APIs we've been using, correct? Yes? So if you find yourself with a hiccup anywhere there, please go ahead and review that particular topic. Okay, so at that point, we have the item name here, and we have the item name, and Miles would be very happy here with Shin Godzilla. All right, great. Next step. I want to have an image. I want to have the image of that item. I'll expose us to what's known as a header view. Every table view has a header view. So we'll go ahead, we'll create a custom view. We'll create a custom view to have an image view for now, just an image view, that's it for now. And that image view, or that header view, we'll add it to our table view, okay? A table view, so when we come to our view did load here, or wherever we decide to set it up, a table view has a header view. A table header view. It could take in any UI view. It could take in any UI view. So we'll create a custom view that takes in, we'll create a custom view that takes in a string or some URL, image URL, and that will be our header view. Everybody with me? Everybody with me here so far? Okay? So let's go ahead and create it. Let's create a new view in our view section here. Let's create a new file.
So we can have the image and below the table?
Yes, exactly. Exactly, very good. So here we have, very good. So here we have Cocoa Touch. It's a UI view subclass. UI view subclass, and we'll call this. Yeah, but we might reuse it though. Let's just call it header view for now. Call it header view.
What is this for again?
It's for the table view, the top of the table view. Imagine the table view has a first cell with an image.
Okay, so we're putting it in one of the cells?
It's not going to be one of the cells. A table view has a header view.
Oh, so it'll just drop it down in its own?
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
So here we have class, we call it header view, subclass of UI view, and we say next here, and we go ahead and create. And yes, very good. Cool. So we call it header view. We all have our snippets, right? Yes? We have our code snippets here? All right, cool. So we have our header view here. The header view, we don't want, as far as the header view is concerned, its width, it will set its width based on what the table view is. But we need to provide it with the height. So for now, in our frame here, which we'll probably be changing soon here, in our frame, we'll change this to cgrect. We'll pass cgrect. Question?
Did I miss something? I don't have
cgrect.
the preloaded functions.
Oh, the snippets?
Yeah. Oh.
You were here for.
Never mind.
I'm like, I remember seeing you here for snippets.
No, I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So 0, 0, the width, we'll just put in 400 here, and the height we'll say 400. Again, the width doesn't matter. The height does matter. The height is what height you want. But the width is going to be up to the table view to say go ahead and take the whole width of that header view. And then here's some documentation on table view header.
You use the best.
Table
Doesn't
view.
matter which one you use.
Use the one that's the float, that takes the float here.
Okay.
So table view header, I'll just slug that out for you
You
guys.
said 0, 0, 0, 0.
0, 0, 400, 400.
Is this how, I was trying to do it so there was two search bars and navigation with I was trying to do the same thing but for navigation here.
Yeah, you could have done that.
I was trying to do two search bars inside of the navigation
nav-
bar title view.
You can't do too much there in the nav controller view.
Yeah, it was only letting me do it.
Yeah, only one, yeah. So you could do something similar to that, having a header view, and then in there put like your search controller, whatever it is there. Yeah, you could do that. You could customize it whichever way you want. In our particular example, we'll customize it such that it has an initializer that takes in like a string URL. Okay, so we have our header view here. And then again, we set up the frame such that it's 0, 0. The width is 400. The height is 400. The height is what's important here. As we look at the documentation here, it says the table view respects only the height. Do we see that in the back? Do we see that in the back? So here it says the table view only respects the height of the view's frame rectangle. Adjust the width of the header view automatically to match, right? So the table view is the one adjusting the width. Everybody with me so far? Okay. So let's continue on. We'll have our own initializer here. That takes in, we'll say, image URL of type string. We'll call super init with frame. So basically, we'll just copy this line and remove that initializer. And call common init, and we'll get rid of that initializer here. When we call our header view, the way we'll initialize our header view is with a string URL or an image URL. Maybe we call that image string URL. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Hey.
So we put the super in it and that one to delete it.
Yeah, because we're not using the default one we just had earlier. So what does this header view have? We could have many things here, but we'll keep it simple for now. We'll have, it could be private because we have our initializer. Yes. Yes. Thank you, sir. Because we're not accessing that image, we're not accessing that image view. We're not accessing that image view from outside. We're accessing the header view and we're passing it to the URL and it sets itself up. So there's no need to have the variable public. Does that make sense? Because we're not, we don't have a configured view on it or whatever it is. Cool? Yeah, definitely. Very similar to what we just did with our detail view controller. Yeah. All right, cool. So we have our image view here of type UI image view. Let image view equal to UI image view, return image view. Let's set up our image view. So image view content mode, we'll say make it aspect fill. What else we need to make on our image view? We'll say image view clip to bounds is true. We'll say image view, give it a default image of say UI image, system image. What do we want here? Who has a default image? What should we pass in here? A what?
Like
A bike, is that?
MIC.
Oh, Mike. Okay. That's Mr. Guitar here.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a mic here.
I'm not using that for now.
In the SF symbols, there's a mic there.
I remember.
There's a mic dot fill too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I just be putting photos sometimes.
All right, so cool. So we have our image view good to go. Let's go ahead and set up our constraints. Can we go down? Okay, let's go ahead and set up our constraints. So we'll say private. Who's been using SnapKit? You said not you. You could use it. Try to use it, right? Just try to be familiar.
We can't just import it right now?
Yeah, but we're not going to import. I don't want to import more pods on this file. You see how long it takes to build it, right?
We already have SnapKit on this project.
Oh, we do?
Yeah. We don't?
No.
Oh, it's Kingfisher.
Kingfisher, this one I love. I go anywhere with that one.
Kingfisher is great. Set image.
Yes, exactly.
Does that like
Yep, Kingfisher is awesome. So let's go ahead and set up, what's it called here? Image view. Set up image view. The more native code you could write, yes, we're exposing you guys to CocoaPods or third-party stuff, but the more native code you could write, the better. Because when it comes to that code challenge, you really want to minimize any pods or third-party libraries you're using. But yes, we want to expose you to it because in the real world, people use stuff like SnapKit and AutomoFire and all that stuff there. But it's hard to like do native a lot with without using image stuff there because image has a lot of extra work there. But you could use like a simple extension like the one we have to resize, for example, or even our get image extension like we wrote in Unit 3. You could write that as well. Okay, so set up image. Let's go ahead and add our sub view, image view. And we say image view dot, what am I saying here, Yulia? Translate, right? So now we're taking care of auto layout. So we say set it to false, so we're not doing auto resizing mask anymore. And now we'll go ahead and say ns layout constraint dot activate. And we'll pass in our array of constraints. And basically, we want to set up the image view such that it takes up all the edges. So here we'll start off, we'll say image view. That's where SnapKit is great. You could just have one line, right?
Yeah.
Image, so we'll say top anchor constraint equal to, we're not in a safe area. We're just in a view here. So we could just say top anchor here. And then we'll just copy this 3 times. And we'll say top, we'll say lead in, we'll say bottom, we'll say bottom, we'll say trailing, and we'll say trailing. And we'll make sure to call our setup constraints in our command init here. This is review, so I'll scroll up. And we'll import Kingfisher. And in our initializer here, we could say image view dot kf dot set image, and we pass in URL string, and I pass in image URL.
Inside of which one?
The initializer.
The image initializer?
Inside of the header view initializer.
You say image, you have
Image view.
It's with research.
Yeah. Import Kingfisher. Did we import Kingfisher?
Where are you setting this?
In the initializer, did you write line 25, image view.kf, Kingfisher?
Yeah, but what is?
We haven't used that view yet. We just wrote the view. We haven't used it anywhere. Wherever we use it, we'll be passing in a URL.
Are we gonna be passing an image?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Cool. Oh, I thought that was a hand there. Antonio with his coffee. All right, cool. 20 minutes, we're doing good. We might not get to all the Firebase stuff, but that's fine. Tomorrow, we have tomorrow. Let's continue on. Are we good here? Can we move out of the header view? All right, so let's now go back to our detail controller. In our detail controller, in our view did load here, I'm in the detail controller, item detail controller. I'm in the view did load. Do we all have access to view did load here? Item detail controller? All right, so instead of UI view, we're not passing UI view, we're passing header view. Now, if we take a look at our header view initializer, it takes in an image URL. Do we see that? Right, this is what we just wrote. So we have to get used to writing initializers as we need, right? You have a view, it takes in some dependency, you inject it with that dependency, in dependency injection, right? Our header view depends on a URL. So now we'll pass in a URL here. How do I get that URL from the item?
Item, the image URL.
Awesome, very good. So that's it.
That's
That's
it?
it.
Yeah. That's it. I thought it was gonna be hard. It's because you make it sound so scary.
Mwah.
You make it sound like I don't want to do it.
Am I the CDC?
Yes. No.
Okay.
You're the PURSE.
What? I didn't do anything. I'm just fixing my...
FIREBASE.
If we wrote that code, we could write it and test it, right? So let's just go ahead and run, test it.
We set the size 400.
Yeah, you could make it higher, shorter. So if I click on this, like that, we have our, right? So here we have our header view. And there's also a footer view, if you want a footer view for reasons, right? So here we have our header view. Everybody with me? Right? So here I could scroll my stuff, right?
And it's already on a scroll view.
Well, it's on the table view.
Yes.
It's part of the table view, yeah. Cool?
So now, so we're not gonna get into comments?
Into what? Bahamas? Yeah, we'll do comments right now. We have a text field, we have a send button, we could add comments.
Let's do that.
Okay. Right now, if I click on this, my keyboard hides my text view. That's not my text field. That's not good, right? So we need to fix that. Everybody with me? We need to fix that. One way we could fix it, we could have a tab gesture to dismiss it, but that's not enough. I want to have access to that text field. When my keyboard comes up, I want to have my text field come up as well. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? I want to make sure that we all have access to our constraint here. Do we all have access to our constraint? Great. So let's write some keyboard handling code. That might take the rest of the lecture, but that's fine. Let's write our keyboard handling code. All that again is part of review and knowing how. Let's start it off down here. So first, let's write a private function. We'll call it register keyboard notifications. On register, you know the thing, you know. But if you had the code snippet, you could just snip it in there, right?
Or I'm just copy and paste, give me a second.
On on register keyboard notifications. You don't want to know.
And then are we gonna do the keyboard will show?
Yes,
keyboard will
yes,
hide?
yes, yes, yes. Notification here, and we also have private
Keyboard will show.
function keyboard
Will show.
will hide. Yes, I know, yeah.
Are you gonna also do the move keyboard thing?
Yeah,
Go
we'll,
inside the keyboard will
yep,
show.
that's where we headed, yep.
Are you gonna, I'm not gonna copy and paste, I'm just moving.
All right, cool. So register keyboard notification. What are we doing here? Now we need to go ahead and access Notification Center, not local notification or UN Notification Center. Don't get the two of them mixed up, right? If somebody asks you what's Notification Center versus UN Notification Center, be careful there. Right? So what we access in here is Notification Center.default, which is a singleton. What we want to do is add ourselves as an observer for changes. So we say self selector here is which function am I calling? Am I just adding random things here? What am I doing?
Well, you have to, well, keyboard,
Whoa,
that would
whoa,
be
whoa.
keyboard will show.
Selector, I'm going to call keyboard will show. So what am I calling? That function I'm calling when this happens. The name of it, I'm going to use UI responder. The class UI responder dot keyboard will show notification. I'm not passing any items or objects. So here we just added ourselves. We added ourselves as an observer to listen for changes when the keyboard will show. We have an error here. Mr. Oscar, why do we? How can we fix this error here? Right, so Oscar says now that our function, this function, keyboard will show, needs to be an at Objective-C function because this is an Objective-C runtime API. So let's just go ahead and do both of them at Objective-C. Great. So this is one notification. We need to add a second notification. So notification center dot default dot add observer self selector here is keyboard will hide. The name is UI responder dot keyboard will hide notification. Object is nil. Build, make sure we have no errors. Awesome. In the unregister part, I want to unregister. I want to remove myself as a observer. So we'll say notification center dot default dot remove self, the name, what I'm trying to remove, UI responder dot keyboard will show notification, object nil. Why didn't we make a ref? Oh, you can just type in it like that? Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we could do that. So here, let's just make sure that this is will hide. Will hide. Great.
So the difference is like the add observer and remove observer.
Yes. So in our view did appear, for example, we'll have the register. In our view will disappear, we'll have the unregister. We'll call, rather, the unregister. Okay. Great. So right here, we could implement view did appear, call super view did appear, and then we'll call register notifications, and then view will disappear, super view will disappear. We'll call onRegister. Ooh, 10 minutes. OnRegister notifications. Register, onRegister. Where am I? Here? Right here, right here. So register, onRegister, that's it.
Should we do the, just the, keyboard is visible, Boolean, true or false?
Keyboard, oh no, we're not gonna do that.
You sure for the move keyboard up?
We'll just use the constraints. What's happening here?
No, but we're just saying that if the keyboard is visible, it will return. Okay, I'm just.
No, it's fine. You're not bugging. Come on. Why are you saying those things to yourself? To unregistered, yeah, we don't want to have ourselves still listening to that when we're not around. Ba, 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 da, ba, 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 da, ba, da, ba, da, ba, ba.
So we put the register in the data pair, right? It's saying that data pair is
The view controller
view control.
is on screen, yes. So start listening to the keyboard changes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's your question? Where did we add what? Where did we add what? Oh, just go ahead and type in view did appear and implement it, right? It's an override function. Okay? All those are view life cycles here.
Are we gonna create another?
Yeah, we'll create a variable to keep the constant, right? That's where you're going. Very good. Always looking ahead. Very good. So at this point, you should be posting already.
Who? Give me 2 seconds. I'm trying to work on it.
1, 2.
You're talking too fast.
How are we doing? Can I scroll up? So Madame Tiffany says we need to write some variable here. Bless you, sir. I'm going to scroll back down. So let's have a variable here. We'll call it original value. Container bottom, original value. I just call it original value for constraint. And it's a CG float. We want to keep track of the constant, or the constraint. So that when we reset it back to that constant, whatever it is, to that constraint constant. Okay. While keeping everything on screen, right here, we'll just say original constant, capture it, and we'll say container view bottom constant here. So we saved it before we go ahead and override it. So we're saving the constant because we'll be going back and forth. When it's on screen, when the keyboard is on screen, the constant, that container's bottom, we're going to change it to whatever the keyboard height is. But when the keyboard is hidden, then we want to go back to that original value. Okay? Questions? We good? Can we keep going there? What function are you going to? Here?
Does the keyboard have default height?
We should never assume what the height is.
Does it have its own constraint for the top of the keyboard then?
We should never assume what
It's
the height
like, how
is.
do you want to make it so the top of the keyboard keyboard in the bottom of what you're typing.
We have to remove an X body from it. Is yours showing up already?
No, I'm just,
Looking ahead.
I'm asking you.
We're gonna access the frame of the keyboard, which gives us its position,
Okay.
and then we'll take that height and change the constraint based on the height of the keyboard.
Okay.
Right? But is there a hard-coded number? We can't assume that.
I
Yeah.
got this in.
Because they're all different sizes.
Animated to like snap to the.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the aim of it. That's what we're headed. And I think we should get there in 5 minutes, right?
Alex, we only added view did appear, right?
View did appear and view will disappear. That's what we unregistered, right? If we register it, we have to unregister it when the view controller is no longer on screen. View will disappear. That's where we unregister. And view did appear. That's where we register. Cool? We might have a to-do. Just make it work, right? And post. Come back tomorrow, review it.
You want to make it work in post?
Yeah.
But we need to get in there, we were near that.
You're near that. You have a text field. You'll just scroll out. You have a text.
Are we gonna have to send it to like, is it like we send it to a different, not a different database, but do we have a different
Yeah,
collection?
a new collection, yeah.
And then we have to like have a listener, and then this, it will be.
Yeah, all the things.
Populated
Yep.
with listener.
Yep. Okay. Can we continue? We good here? Are we good here? Okay, in our keyboard we'll show, let's write some code here to get the keyboard's frame.
I have a question. So you're gonna put that in,
I'm listening. Keyboard, spell, sir.
so you're gonna put all of your logic inside of the will show or the will hide. You're not gonna create helper function.
We could write a helper function after we finish for now, but for now just have it in the will show. Right? So in our will show here, we need to capture what the keyboard's frame is, right? So when that notification gets called, I get information back via a dictionary. What is that dictionary? I get it back from the notification.user.info. User.info is a dictionary. Here it tells us storage for values of objects related to this notification. So whatever the notification is, I get back a dictionary with information about that particular data or object. So here we say user info. On user info, we want to access, we've done this, I'll just grab the name here. It's UI keyboard bound user info key. So this is all camel case, so upper U, this is, I'll just select the name out if we need to. But basically, how do we get access to that? 1 second. Return. Keyboard. Keyboard bound user info key. The begin changes. I don't want to use the begin, it changes.
So use this one, UI keyboard.
UI keyboard bound user info key. Bound, sorry. If you were to figure out where that's coming from, you could simply print out notification.userinfo, and this will give all the info keys from the user info. That's what we did the first time we did it. The first time we did it, we printed it out and we had all the keys, we saw the frames, and we picked one of them. Exactly. It's the same process. So if you print this out, it will give you all the values. So here, this is optional. Put a question mark after info. It's an optional dictionary. We're unwrapping it. So here we have a keyboard frame, and we need to also say as CGRect. Very good. Because that's the value it is. It's an NSRect, but we casted it as a CGRect. It has an origin and it has a size. So it gives us the size of the keyboard, and we're only interested in the height of the keyboard, right? So that particular keyboard frame value, it has origin, right, X and Y, and it has size, width, and height. Again, if we were to run this code, which we probably should, we'll run the code before we do anything else, and we'll see what print notification that user info will give us. It will give us a series of keys from that particular dictionary. Okay? And we'll see the size of the keyboard as well. So before we do anything else, did we print out or did we type out print notification that user info? So let's go ahead and run it before we do anything else. So when our keyboard comes up, we'll get a print console message. So run the app. I think we should probably stop there too, because I don't want to go over it. Is Jess ready? Not ready? Just let me know how long she has. That way I could keep going maybe. All right, so I click on my cell. I click on the keyboard. And here is what we're talking about. So all those are the keys and the heights of the keyboard here, right? So in our example here, for example, we see the height of the keyboard is 346. But we're not going to hard code 346, right? That changes through devices. We don't want to hard code that number. So we'll query for that. And the key that we used here, let's make sure that we copy that key. That way we don't have any error. So access where it says UI keyboard bounds user info key. Do we see that? Do we see that in the console? Kevin, do you see that?
This is my,
Did you print?
the unregistered keyboard.
Think I can make it?
Try.
You gonna knock it out?
Oh, man. All right. Guys. All right, let's continue. We might be cut short here very soon. We have like a minute or so. So let's continue. Do we all get our print console showing the keys in the dictionary? All right. So make sure that you copy UI keyboard bounds user info there, paste it in there. Even if we did type it out, just paste it in. Make sure it's the correct key. This is where the key is coming from. It's not coming from blindly anywhere. So with that said, we'll continue later. We'll stop here and we'll continue later, okay? When we come back, we will be changing the constraint so that when the keyboard notification happens, I change my constraint constant to make it go up. And then when it goes back down, make it go back down. So far, so good? Okay. Okay, so we'll stop here.